Thank you, Air. We are continuing to talk about snowmobiling this morning with Ron Yesney from the Michigan DNR. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Becca, thanks.
Yes, thank you for being here. And so something that you kind of wanted to touch on was talking about trail closures, correct?
Yeah, we do have some trail closures. One thing that is really an issue, an important thing to point out in the snowmobile program, in order to connect trails, we have to get permission from private property owners. We have an interconnecting trail system across the Upper Peninsula, but that's only because we have like 1,900 agreements across the state with private landowners to use their property. So otherwise there would be no trail connections. So we really rely heavily on those private landowners that allow us to use their property for snowmobiling in the winter. And sometimes we run into situations where property ownership changes or a landowner runs into an issue and cancels his agreement, and we end up with scenarios where we have to reroute the trails, or we end up with trail closures. We do have a trail closure right now in Alger County, an issue over there with a road system that the County Road Commission didn't want us to use any longer, so we had to close that trail. We have some trail closures due still from the Father's Day flood in 2018 in Houghton County. Yeah, the Frida grade's still closed, Trail 13 is closed. So we're still working on some of those rebuilding efforts. And it just has taken us a while because of the funding. So funding, engineering, things like that. So we do have some unfortunate trail closures, but every year we kind of run into those, and we try to find new ways to get around them. And sometimes we can and sometimes we can't. So like Trail 16 between Crystal Falls and Segola, there's not a connection there to get over to Trail 5. That's been an issue for the last several years. Trail 11 north of Wakefield up to the Porkies has been closed for about 10 years now. We just, sometimes when a trail closes, there's not a reroute available.
Gotcha, yeah. And so is there a way that people can look up those closures so that they're up to date on them?
Yeah, everything's on our website, Michigan DNR, michigan.gov/DNR, and then just go to snowmobiling, and then there's a live update page, and we update that weekly, so that's the best place to look. I know there's apps out there. The Polaris app's pretty good. Onyx has a trails layer, but they're not as up to date as the Michigan DNRs.
Right, and then another important thing is, you know, the volunteer work that goes into helping to maintain these trails, correct?
Correct, yeah. So we've got about 30 snowmobile clubs in the Upper Peninsula. They do all the brushing, the signing, and the maintenance on our snowmobile trails. If it weren't for them, we would not have a trail system. So we're very fortunate. The snowmobile community got formed and organized in the late 1960s, and they started connecting trails and working together. It all started out as loops, you know, where every community had their own snowmobile trail, and it would be like a 10-mile loop. And then they started connecting like communities, and that's how we ended up with this series of trails across the Upper Peninsula where you can ride from city to city to city to city. And that's how we ended up with it.
Wow, yeah, and that's really cool. I mean, you know, you could travel the whole UP and
a lot of people do it. I've done it. It's a lot of fun. You know, you take a saddlebag and you take a couple changes of clothes and toothbrush, and you can just pretty much go from St. Ignace to the Sioux to the Keweenaw to Ironwood and all the way back without leaving a trail, which is what draws people here.
Definitely. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Ron?
I just want people to ride safe. I want people to stay on the trail. We have an issue with off-trail riding and people getting on private property, and that's how we end up losing a lot of our trail permissions, is when people don't stay on the trails.
Makes sense, yes. And thank you so much for joining us today. We'll have all the information on our website, myupnow.com. But for now, we're going to send it to the break, and we'll be back with more My UP Mornings.